Hello there, fellow Daz Studio enthusiasts. This is Not From This World, and I want to welcome you to my next tutorial. I'm kind of excited about this one because I want to show you how you can make your own billboards that will then allow you to add a bunch of characters into a scene without eating up a bunch of memory. Now, you are probably familiar with billboards because you can purchase billboards all over Daz Studio. And people have done a really good job just creating background character billboards that we can add into our scene that don't take up a bunch of memory. And what's really nice about them is you can set them in the background. They're just people on the street or people walking around. And if you need those extra people, they can really help out with your scene. There's even a billboard builder, which is kind of interesting. I didn't even know that this product existed, but you can evidently build your own billboards through this product. However, it is pretty simple to create a billboard on your own. And that's what I want to show you. Now, before I get into this, I want to mention that there's quite a few of these billboard tutorials out there on YouTube, but I don't mean anything negative for the other folks creating tutorials. I'm sure they actually know more than I do about this kind of stuff. However, it always seems like it's hard to understand them, or a lot of times it just feels like they're starting the tutorial in the middle of a conversation. And so I thought this would be a good time to just go over how to make a billboard kind of step by step without skipping anything. I always think tutorials are more advantageous if we stick to the process of how we create it instead of kind of just jumping in the middle of the tutorial, which is how I feel like others tend to do. So I've got a scene set up and I've got Milika and she is fighting some goblins. And what I want to do is I want to put goblins in the background. Now, the reason why we don't just copy and move our goblin characters to the background and repose them is because it eats up a ton of memory. You know, one of the big things that's going to slow down your rendering, slow down just using Daz in general, is going to be multiple characters. So I have 3 characters in this scene. I've got Milika and 2 goblins. And so that is enough. You know, if I use other characters, I'm going to start eating through my memory. The renders take much longer, and we want to keep things simple. So what I'm going to do is I am going to make some billboards of my goblins and add them to the background of this scene so it looks like Milika is struggling to take down these goblins because there's just a horde of them. And so this is kind of cool, and what I really love about making your own billboards is just the fact that you can pose them how you want for your scene. You know, if we purchase billboards, they are kind of locked in a position that we have limited use for. We can create some pretty easy billboards that we can just pose and then put in our scene the way that we want to. And that's really what I want to show you today. So I have this scene kind of saved. So we're going to go out of this scene and I am going to open up just a scene where I have my goblin. And so to make a billboard, we want to start with only the character. And so I'm going to open up this scene with just one goblin and nothing else. And we're going to create a billboard from that goblin. Okay, so what I have done is I've just taken my goblin and I've moved him into a separate Daz scene. And I'm going to create a billboard using this goblin. So the first thing I want to do is I want to put him in a pose that I like. So let's choose a pose. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to position our character so that he is directly facing the camera. And I'm going to kind of rotate his head here because I want him to be kind of looking at what's going on in the scene. So I'm going to try and pose him so that it looks like he belongs in the scene. All right, now once I have him posed, the next step is to make sure that my render settings are set up correctly. Now I can go here to environment options, or I can go over here to the render settings to environment. Either one is fine, but what I want is to make sure that my dome and scene are selected. I want to make sure that my headlamps are off, and then I'm going to come over here and I'm going to make sure that my ground visible from below is off and my ground shadow intensity is at 0 because we don't want any shadows. We just want to render this guy without any shadows. Some tutorials will tell you that you need to have absolutely no spotlights or anything like that to render. I think that just depends on your personal preference. I don't have any spotlights right now in this scene, and so we're going to render him and see what he looks like. He may be a little dark, but let's check it out. Before I render though, I'm going to go to environment, and I don't want to have any background, so I'm going to make sure that this visible and render for the background is off. Now he should be ready to render, so I'm going to just come up here and render him. And when I render him, because I have that visible and render off, you'll notice that there's absolutely no background. All right, so he rendered very quickly. I'm going to come up here and let's save him. And I have some other ones that I've already created. So we're going to name this guy Goblin 4 because I've done some test goblins. And we want to make sure that we save him as a PNG file. Don't save him as a JPEG because when you save a JPEG, there's no translucency. So you will have a background when you save it as a JPEG. So save it as a PNG file. We're just going to hit save. Now we can make our billboard. So to make our billboard, I'm going to go to that folder. And I am going to select my Goblin 4. I'm going to right click on it and I'm going to open it with my GIMP program. So GIMP's going to start up and here he is. Notice there's no background. It's translucent. Now to make the billboard, it's actually very simple and it's very similar to what we've done in some of my other tutorials where we created something like a tattoo or holes in clothing. So we're going to select this layer over here to the right. We're going to right click and hit duplicate layer. Now once we duplicate the layer, we're going to select that layer and then I'm going to come up to tools, go to selection tools. We're going to come across, go to by color select, and then we're going to click within the goblin and we're going to just make the goblin completely pink. Let go of that, go over to your paintbrush, select the paintbrush, select white, hit OK. So now we're going to paint white and I'm just going to paint my goblin completely white. All right, this is a little different than Photoshop. I don't use Photoshop. Photoshop, you just hit a button, I guess, and it goes right to this. But in GIMP, the way that I've figured this out is that I have to color him in, which is no big deal, just takes a couple more seconds. But I'm going to get him completely colored in white. Once I have that, I'll just go to select all. And now I have this layer. I'm going to go back to my original layer, right click, hit duplicate layer again, and now I'm going to have a second copy. So because we have 3 layers here, as I click on it, I'm not sure why I don't see those layers, but we can get rid of the layers that we've created by just getting rid of that eyeball. And now I can see that I have this layer here. Now with this layer, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to go to Tools, Selection Tools, go down to By Color Select. And now I'm going to select the background here. And I'm going to make that pink. Without making him pink, I'm going to make it pink. That highlights him. Then I'm going to go to my color palette, select black, and then hit my bucket tool. And now I'm just going to select my bucket tool and make the background completely black. Notice how I had to, his arm was in there, so I had to hit this as black too. So now we want everything as black. I'm going to go to select all, get rid of that. And now I have 3 layers. I have a layer that's where the character is completely white. I have a layer where I have a black background, and then I have the original layer. I'm going to make sure I hit my eyeballs again so they're all 3 visible. And then I'm just going to go to File, Export. I'm going to name it. This is Goblin 4, and I'm going to type in Billboard. All right, then I'm going to hit Export, Export again. And now we have our billboard. So now I can go back into Daz. Okay, and once I'm back in Daz, I'm going to take my character, ignore him because I don't use him. I'm going to go up and create a plane. When I create a plane, I'm going to have it as size 2 meters, divisions 1. And then you don't have to do this, but it just saves a step where you can choose the primary axis as the Z positive. This pops it up vertically, so it's not a horizontal plane when you create it. And I'm just going to create this plane. So you can see I created a plane next to my original character. So I'm going to select this plane. Let's kind of move it to the side here. You can move it up. And now I'm going to select my plane. So my plane is selected in my scene. I'm going to go to the Surface tab. Under Plane, I'm going to hit the tabs, go to Base, go to Base Color, click on the arrow, go to Browse. And now I'm going to choose my Goblin 4 character, the render that I created. I'm going to select that. Now you can see that it puts a picture of our Goblin on the plane. That is good, but we don't want that white background. So I'm going to go down here under the Surface tabs to Geometry, go to Cutout Opacity, hit Browse again. And now this time I'm going to select what I layered in GIMP. When I do that, you can see that now that white is gone and he's completely transparent. Now he is larger than we want him to be, so I'm just going to click on him, go back to Parameters, and I can scale him down to the size that I want. All right. So now you can see we have a billboard. Pretty cool. Now don't worry about the white around him. Actually, when you render, you won't really see that. So you don't have to worry about that. So now that my billboard is finished, I want to save it. Now I want to position my camera where I want it to be saved. And then I'm going to select my billboard, go to Surfaces, go to Geometry, and then hit Cutout Opacity. Now remember, whatever the scene is showing is what your little icon picture is going to look like. So now that I have it in the right position, maybe even move it closer. If I move it too close, I notice it just gets dark because there's no cameras. So I'm going to leave it out like this. With Cutout Opacity selected, I'm going to go to File, Save As. Then I'm going to come down to Shader Preset, click on that. And then I've already created a folder under shaders. So when you first open it, you're going to see shaders. I just hit New Folder. I created a Goblin Billboards folder. I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to save this as Goblin 1. And I have some other billboards already created because I was testing this before I set it up. It's going to come up with this option tab. Just hit accept. And now we have this saved. So if I go up to my library, so I'm going to hit my Daz formats, go to library, come down to shaders. You can see my Goblin Billboards folder. If I select that, now you can see I've got my different goblins. To save the entire billboard as one thing, I'm going to select it. I'm going to come up here to File, go to Save as a Scene Subset. And then I can choose where I want to put it. So I think where I want to put this is in my Daz Studio library. So I'm going to choose my Daz Studio library, and then it's going to be under People, and I can create a new folder, and we're just going to call this folder Billboards. All right, so I'm going to hit Enter, and then I'm going to take this, I'm going to click on this billboard because I may want to make more billboards in the future. So in my billboards, I'm going to create a folder, and we're just going to call it Goblins. All right, then I'm going to click on that, and this is Goblin number 4. So I'm going to hit Enter. Now it's going to come up with this tab that asks me what I want to save. I don't want to save everything in the scene, so I'm going to come up here and just uncheck everything. And if we look, see this goblin is plane 2. So I'm just going to hit plane 2 and then hit accept. And now it is saved. Now to find it, I'm just going to go to that same folder here in my Daz. So I saved it in my Daz 3D library. So I'm going to just drop that down. And it's under People. And see, here are my billboards. And here is the goblin. Now I can just load it in. And boom, there it is. This is an actual set. And it just automatically loads in our goblin. Pretty cool. Okay, so now let's take these goblin billboards and let's move them into our Milica scene. Alrighty, so I have my Milica scene now, and if I select my billboards, I can add them in and put them into my scene. So I'm just going to kind of zoom out here so I can figure out exactly where to put them. Now I've saved them in 2 different ways. So just to show you, the first method is I just saved the entire billboard as a set. So if I go to my Daz 3D library, go under People, go to Billboards, go to Goblins, and I can just double click him and he should pop up. And there he is. He was just kind of off to the side. Now I can move him back in the background, and once he's in position, I may need to rotate him. So wherever I want to put the camera, like I probably shouldn't have moved this camera because it was in the spot I liked. But for example, if this is the spot that I want the camera, I want my billboard to be facing the camera. So when the billboard is selected, I'm just going to go down here to the Y rotate, and see if I move the Y rotate, I can flip him around and I can orient him so he's facing the camera as best that I can. Alright, so he's kind of in position. Now let's look at the other method. So with the other method, I have to add a plane. So I'm going to add a plane. We're going to take that plane. Let's kind of move it into position here. I select the plane. And once the plane is selected, remember I saved some of my Goblin billboards as a shader. So if I go under my library, go to presets, go to shaders, then I have my Goblin billboards. With the plane number 2 selected, I go to surfaces, and then just go to your base, hit the base, and then double click the shader, and there he is. Now, he is way too big, so I'm going to change this guy. We're going to shrink him down, scale him down, and then put him into position as well. So now he needs to be a little bit bigger than that. I think I had him at about 70%, the real size of a Daz character. Alright, so now I've got him, so I can move him into position. So maybe he's standing over here. Let's make him a little bit bigger. Alright, so now I have that guy in position. So see, now I'm adding just these background characters. So I'm going to go ahead and add a few more, and then we will render them up, see what they look like. Okay, so now you see I have some of my billboards added into the background. All right, I'm going to save this, and let's see what it looks like. Okay, so you can see the billboards worked pretty well, and I got more to do with this scene. I need to add some better spotlights, get some shadows in there, but you get the picture of how we can add a bunch of other characters making billboards. So I really hope this helped you. Please like, subscribe, and leave a comment or two. I'd love to hear what you have to say. And until next time, I hope you have a wonderful day. Take care.